Hello, family, and welcome to African Esquire TV. I am your host, Tierney Cherie. I'm here with my little co-host today. And we're going to talk about an issue that I wanted to talk about, and I was looking for an example to use, and then the perfect example just dropped out of nowhere. And that is the issue of celebrities being used to basically deter social movements. And it might look like they're being used to prop up social movements, but in reality, they're being used to quell actual revolutionary actions happening. Now, we're going to talk about this new issue that happened with Jay-Z. And this is not a condemnation of Jay-Z. Let me first say that, it's great that he, wants to do something for people, for Black people in particular. And it is good that you have celebrities who want to do certain things to help the community. The issue isn't so much him as much as him being used by the corporate structure. And this is not to say that, they shouldn't be activists or they shouldn't be trying to do things in the community. Frankly, Jay-Z is doing way better than he was at a different time in his career, because at one point, him and Beyonce, it's like they didn't want to talk about any Black issues. You hardly heard them say anything. And now at least you hear them speaking out, which is great, of course, because to me, whenever you hear people speaking out that are artists, it's a reflection of what's going on in a community, because art replicates reality. So that's a good telling of where we are as a community, that we are more conscious and more aware of what's going on. And so I take that as a positive sign. So it's not so much a condemnation of him or any other celebrity, but it's really a condemnation of the system. And it's a wake-up call to say that we have to be woke and understand when we're being played by the system. So we're going to talk about this new deal that happened. The NFL basically made a deal with Jay-Z's Roc Nation for a business partnership. So this is after the NFL had all this controversy happening, if you don't remember, and I'm sure you do, but Colin Kaepernick was kneeling during the Pledge of Allegiance. However, the NFL owners said, you can't do that. And so he kept doing it. Well, whenever he was out of his contract, he was then blackballed from the league and not allowed to play on any team, even though he was definitely qualified to play on as a quarterback. So he was blackballed from the industry for taking a stance for Black people. Not just him, but a lot of other people who also stood with him. A lot of other players who actually stood with him also suffered alongside with him. We also know that the NFL is has all-white ownership, despite the fact that over 70% of the players are Black. Let that resonate. You got all these white people who own the teams, although the players are 70% Black. And just consider the fact that doesn't exist with any other racial group. You don't ever hear about there being, white soccer players and all of the owners of the soccer league are Black, or you don't hear them being Asian soccer players and all their owners are white. Like, you don't hear this thing happening in other communities. You only hear it happening with the Black community. And of course, it should be alarming to us because of the slave relationship that has existed in the United States that replicates this, where you have Black people who are the labor, who are the entertainment, who are the ones who are talented, and they're being owned by people who are using them for their profit because of their labor, because of their talent, because of all of these things that they possess. So this should be already a red flag to us, the fact that this type of relationship exists within the NFL, and not just the NFL, the NBA. All of these sports, whenever Black people dominate, it's going to be owned by whites. That should always be alarming to us, because we should understand by now that this is reminiscent of slavery. Now, what's going on now is that, and Jay-Z was one of those celebrities that was standing with Kaepernick whenever Kaepernick said, I'm going to kneel for the Pledge of Allegiance. And he was one of the celebrities that stood with him. And a lot of other celebrities stood with him. And Jay-Z in particular, I remember he's had a lyric in one of his songs. He said, I said no to the Super Bowl. You need me, I don't need you. Saying, I'm not going to perform at the Super Bowl because y'all need us. I don't need y'all, So he was making a really strong stance against the NFL at that time. So fast forward to now, we get this news, and it was all over the internet yesterday that Roc Nation, the company owned by Jay-Z, had partnered with the NFL and with some type of new deal about race and all that. Let's read the article actually just to get the details. This article is from Front Office Sports. I'll have the link inside of the description for you guys. And if you're on African Esquire TV, the link will be on under the video that's posted. So the NFL is poised to announce a sweeping business partnership with Jay-Z's Roc Nation, sources tell Front Office Sports. The deal with Jay-Z a prominent role. The deal will give Jay-Z a prominent role in the league's social justice initiative with players as well as creative input into the league's Super Bowl halftime shows. Now, this is just a side note. I don't know if this is being pitched as being something that's beneficial to the players, as being beneficial to the black community, as being beneficial to Jay-Z. But it's interesting that you have like a lot of things being mixed into one. One, you have social justice initiatives. Social justice initiatives never is, one conclusive thing. So it's not to say that this is going to actually go particularly towards the black community. That can go towards any type of social justice initiative. It can go towards women's issues. It can go towards LGBT issues. It can go towards any issue. And we know that the issue for the protest was a black issue. It was police brutality. So it's not even saying particularly police brutality initiative. It's not saying anything in regard to the black players not having any ownership. It's not saying anything particular to the black players. So that already is, something to note. But also creative input into the Super Bowl halftime shows. That makes me think this is more of a business decision, because that's not helping, the players. That's not helping the black community. That can only help, I would say, Jay-Z and the NFL. So that, to me, looks more like something that's being done for a corporate reason, or for a corporate interest, not really for the interest of us. There's nothing that they could do during a Super halftime show that's going to help us. Now, it says the deal effectively positions Jay-Z, who once rapped and said, "I said no to the Super Bowl. You need me, I don't need you," as the face of the NFL social justice program Inspired Change, which was launched earlier in the years after years of unrest among players, wrote Andrew Beaton of the Washington Street Journal. Now, the fact that, they straight up said it, he's going to be the face of this initiative. And the fact that they're using a black face on this initiative, that again is alarming. Why are these things still being done like we're stupid? Like, we don't understand that just putting someone, a black celebrity, as the face of something doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something. I haven't heard what's particularly this, what's it called? This initiative. It's called Inspire Change. I haven't heard anything particular or specific they're actually trying to do for black people, yet they're going to put a black face on this. Now, that's not to say something's not coming. Maybe Jay-Z's going to get in there and he's going to start pushing some type of initiative. I would like to see. However, again, I'm never, when it comes to these type of corporate things, I'm never thinking that they're ever going to particularly target the actual issue. They're going to target outside issues or target things that are not too, not too strenuous as far as, their fan base being mostly white fan base. Now, it says, I'm going to scroll down some. The NFL, okay. So it says the NFL has been at loggerheads with most of its players since former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick took a knee during the U.S. national anthem in 2016 to protest racial and social injustice. In an interview, Jay-Z said he felt comfortable with becoming a leading voice for Inspired Change because of the NFL's ability to reach millions. Again, this is obviously a business deal. This is not something being done, for the people. It's about the NFL's reach of millions. Even though I may not agree with the politics of some of the NFL team owners, he said he's willing to take a chance. If he didn't do business with wealthy business interests, whom he may disagree with politically, he said, then I wouldn't have any TV shows. I couldn't put my platform on TV because I'm sure someone owns a broadcast network, has supported someone I don't believe should be in office. And I'm going to go right now. That last part that Jade said, I think was very crucial to us understanding why this is so favorable to the NFL. Because they were very quick to get someone who had a business interest in the NFL, not someone who actually had a complete interest in the black community. And that's what's very important. And that's really why I would say celebrities are being used more so to be the faces of black people, because understand, celebrities are already the face of, whatever. They're already out there in the front. They're already out there being pushed in the media. So to take a celebrity and say, we're going to use you for the social justice initiatives, or we're going to work with you for the social justice initiative. And that becomes, right there, the person who's viewed as a leader. Of course, this isn't a leader chose by the community. This is a leader propped up by the system. But the reason why this is so favorable is because people like Jay-Z, people like all of these celebrities, you can call out anyone, call out Beyonce, call out Pharrell Williams, call out Common, call out anyone. They all have an interest in this system. You hardly hear any of them preaching against capitalism because they benefit from capitalism, despite the fact that capitalism destroys black communities, destroys African communities all over the world. The fact is they benefit from the system of capitalism. So you'll never hear them. In fact, Jay-Z has many times said he's a black capitalist. So we have to understand that his allegiances to us is always going to be dual. Of course, he'll try to do something that's going to help us, but not at the risk, not at the risk of taking some coin out of his pocket. That is what he's basically saying here, because if you hear him, what he's saying is very clear. The owners might have racist sentiment, but I work with people all the time who have racist sentiment. If I want to be in this capitalist game, I'm going to have to be compromised inside of this particular area. Now, you'll never hear a lot of other people, you'll never hear a Jewish person saying, I know that this is a Nazi sympathizer, but I'm going to deal with you because, I need your help inside of this particular initiative. No, they have more sense than that. This is something with us, our people, who have been compromised because of money, because of the love of money. We've been compromised to actually do things that would go against us, against our history, against the legacy of our ancestors, support people or work with people. And you might say, well, supporting and working with someone is completely different, but I don't agree with that. If you're working with someone who has hatred for your people, someone who does things to hurt your people, someone who would work to quiet a protest that was trying to say that your people should not be killed by the police, and you're working with that person, then you're working with someone who is going against the history of your ancestors, all those who fought for you. So this is what is happening. Celebrities are so easy because most of them, their consciousness is very shallow. You have different levels of consciousness, and it's not a condemnation because all of us learn, all of us continue to learn, and all of us go deeper. However, a lot of times celebrities, if you are a celebrity who is being propped up by the system, you're not someone who thinks too deeply. For example, you're not going to put, there's a reason why Kevin Hart is like the biggest comedian instead of like a Paul Mooney. Because there's a reason why he was bigger than people like Dick Gregory when Dick Gregory was living. Because whenever you're someone who has a deeper level of consciousness, then they have to be very careful about what platforms they put you on. And they were very careful about what platforms they put Paul Mooney on, they put Dick Gregory on, anyone who's going to say anything that's going to go against their interests. Same thing with the music industry. When the music industry became capitalized, you've seen a complete change in the people who are actually being the go-to rappers. For example, at one time it was Public Enemy, right, who was like the biggest group in the world, but today we have the Migos, and we haven't had a Public Enemy for a long time. But the reason is because whenever you had people who took a capitalist interest inside of hip-hop, then you had the need to quiet those who are going to speak more radically. That's why you don't hear from people like Did Prez. That's why so many groups that you don't hear from, so many rappers that you don't hear from, and it's not that they don't have good music, it's not that they don't have a good message, it's not like that they don't have bangers, but the fact is, if you're willing to say something that's going to go against the interest of the capitalist machine, then they're going to quiet you, they're going to go around you, they're going to look for someone else, and they're going to look for someone who's going to say what they want to say. That's the issue with celebrities. The consciousness of those who are out in the front, more times than not, is very, very shallow. And even whenever you get someone who's supposedly woke, and I'll use one example because I used to be And I still am. I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan, but you know, you'll have him as being like he's the politically charged rapper. But again, you don't hear him speak against capitalism. You don't hear him speak against the exploitation of African people around the world. You don't hear him say these things. And in fact, he makes a lot of money from the same machine. So you're not going to hear him speak against it because he benefits from it. So what we need to do, Black people, is make sure that we're fully aware that people who have an interest in this system cannot be our leaders. And when I mean an interest, who have an actual working interest, who are working to uphold the system because they want to maintain the thing that's giving them money, the thing that's paying for their billion-dollar houses, paying for their billion-dollar clothing, all of those things. The thing that keeps them inside of a life of comfortability while it rapes us of any type of just having basic living conditions. So we have to understand that these people cannot be our leaders. Our leaders can only be people who have no ball inside of this game. You know, there's a reason why Malcolm was willing to die for us. You know, when people aren't willing to die to the money, you darn sure know they're not going to be willing to die for us. There's a reason why Martin Luther King was willing to die for us. There's a reason why all these people, why Garvey was willing to get deported. There's a reason why Fred Hampton was willing to die. Angela Davis was willing to go to jail. Assata Shakur was willing to go to jail and have to leave the United States for her people. Because these people are people who are sold out to the cause. Not only could they not be bought, but their lives were not that significant to them that they would not risk it for the betterment of the community. That's who you want your leaders to be. So I'm saying this to say, to put Jay-Z as the face of a social justice initiative, and the NFL say, oh, we're going to use him and he's going to be the leader, that's an insult to me. That's a real insult to our intelligence. And if you don't recognize that they're insulting your intelligence, Black people, they're telling you that, hey, all we have to do is take one of your rappers and put them on this thing, and then we're going to be able to continue on doing what we're doing. That's an insult to your consciousness. It's an insult to the fact that they don't think that you're politically aware enough to understand that this is what is happening. These are people being used. And the thing happens over and over again in our community. And most of us, by now, we understand this is just a trick. Now the question is, what are we going to do about it? The thing to do about it is to actually find actual people who are actually for the people who don't have an allegiance with the system. Because you can't have an allegiance with white supremacy. Jay-Z saying we're having a business deal. You can't have a business deal with white supremacy. And the NFL is white supremacy. I don't care what anyone says. It's white supremacy. You might say, well, it's paying, a lot of Black people. It's paying for their families and all that stuff. Okay, it's paying them, 100th of what it's paying these white men. It's white supremacy, and it's only giving it to them so that they can continue working for them. But trust me, if the players understood that they're the ones who are the talent and say we can make our own league, then that would change the whole dynamics. So they have to give them something. They have to give them something to keep them inside of line. They have to give them something to keep them playing for them. So they're not for us. I don't care how many quote-unquote opportunities. These are opportunities that are only going to benefit them. They're never going to do anything for you that's not going to benefit them. And this is the tenet of white supremacy. It's not for us. It's for them. It's always for them. Even if you have someone benefiting, even though Jay-Z just became the first billionaire in hip-hop, guess what? He is one of billions of people, trillions of people around the world who was able to get something out of the system. But best know that he getting something out of the system does not change our condition, does not change our social status, does not help us at all. If anything, it's only symbolic. And symbols mean nothing to our actual social and political well-being. So these are the problems that we are having because of this type of thinking. The thinking that says that, okay, if we have one person climb a ladder, then the rest of us can go on their shoulders. No, we can't. Because why aren't we all better off because Jay-Z's a billionaire? Why aren't we all better off? Why aren't we all better off because of these Black players in the NFL? Why aren't we doing better? And I want to say one more thing about this subject. I seen Jamel Hill. She tweeted that, well, I'm not trusting this deal unless Kaepernick has something to do with it. It has nothing to do with Kaepernick. The whole thing with Kaepernick, to me at this point, has nothing to do with Kaepernick because, to be honest, I don't know what exact deal Kaepernick made with the NFL, but I was very disappointed. Yes, I said it. I was disappointed when I found out that he took a non-disclosure deal with the NFL. Because if you were taking a knee to make a statement and they actually were willing to admit to some wrongdoing, and you would take the non-disclosure deal, if that's the case, go to trial. You lost your career already. Go to trial. You know, take that chance. Don't make a deal and not disclose what is in that deal. Because there's something happening behind the scenes that they're not admitting to, or that you're not letting us know what happened. So the fact that he did that, you know, it really made me question him. Like, because to me, it was stupid. And one, he already lost his career. If you're gonna, you know, lose your career, go all the way. Why are you taking a deal with those people? But he took the deal, and I found that very questionable. But I'm saying that to say, you know, it wasn't about Kaepernick. I didn't, you know, get in this whole, you know, forget the NFL thing because of Kaepernick. Personally, I didn't. I did because I understood what was happening. What was happening is that you have a league saying you don't have the right to stand up for your people. When you're working for us, you're our slave. When you're working for us, you are nothing but something that is for our profit. And if you try to step outside of that, then we're going to exercise swift repercussions on you. And that's what happened to him. That was the reason why I have not messed with the NFL for a long time. I really never cared for the NFL anyways, but that's the reason why I was very much for Kaepernick, and like this organization is just racist to its core. Especially when they took and changed the rules to say that if you protest, and they did it quietly, if you protest, if you don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which we found out was a slave anthem to begin with, but if you don't, a slave murder anthem to begin with, but no one wants to talk about that. But if you don't stand for this Pledge of Allegiance, then we are going to penalize you. When that happened, I was like, wow, like these people who don't have any talent to play this sport, who don't have the willingness to get hit, you know, that's another issue with the NFL. Players are freaking getting hit and losing their brains into their 70s, their 80s, you know, they're finding out they have these brain injuries. And this league who's willing to have you on the front line doing that, you the one getting hit, you the one who's talented, you're the one that's all this, they're going to tell you what to do. They're going to tell you to stand for their slave murder anthem, and you're going to comply. That's an issue. So that's all I have on this. I would like to hear your guys' comments. Again, it's African Esquire TV. Please subscribe to the website if you want to get these videos first before anyone else gets them, and also have other content uploaded onto the website that won't be available on YouTube. So that's all I have, you guys. I will see you in another video.